Right now, is this Lovemore Ndou?
Lovemore, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you? Glad that you could make it in because I was not able to figure out how to dial your number on this Skype here. But welcome to Ring News 24 Boxing Radio, Lovemore.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, our pleasure for sure. And Lovemore, the first thing I find interesting is you told me you're out in Australia, a place that I probably will never get to, and we have this crazy time difference. Actually, what time is it out there in Australia right now?
Well, we live in the future, man. It's about 7 in the morning on Monday.
7 in the morning on Monday, and I think when I called you the first time, it was like 3 in the morning. I had no idea where you were, what time it
I
was.
know.
I felt so bad about that, but here we are, and it's interesting as I was looking at your career, and I remember seeing a lot of your fights. It's certainly a who's who record, but you have fought a long time. You turned pro way back in 1993, and you fought most of your fights early on in your career in South Africa. And then you fought a lot in Australia. You were fighting not only did you fight everybody there is, you fought everywhere possible, looking at your record. Can you give us a little compare and contrast what it's like fighting in those other countries as compared to the United States? And what was your favorite place to fight?
I wouldn't say, well, if I have to pick one place, will probably be, if I have to pick one place as my favorite place, will be fighting in South Africa, which is a country of death. It's always, I think it's always important, and it's always good to find in front of your own people. You get a lot of support, and but I've enjoyed, fighting everywhere in the world, and it's been a great career. Look, I haven't officially retired, but that's something I'm contemplating. I think I've had a really great career. It's always smart to walk away before you get hurt. Look, I'm 41. I'll be 42 in a month's time. A smart guy would walk away before he gets hurt, and I believe I'm a smart guy, and that's what I'm intending to do.
All right. Well, it sounds like a good plan, and you definitely want to get out before you do suffer anything like what you're saying. But it took you a long time to come to the United States to fight, and when you finally did, you certainly made the most of getting noticed. You were always competitive. But what was it like coming to the United States after fighting in so many different exotic places, and then you fought in the U.S.? Was that your first trip to the U.S. when you first started fighting there? And if so, how was it?
Well, I would say the U.S. was probably the second foreign country that I ever fought in. The difficulty with fighting in a foreign country is you're always seen as an opponent, and chances of winning are always, are not that easy. You probably have to knock your opponent to win, or sometimes even knock your opponent to get a draw. So you always become a victim of bad judging, and I believe I was one of those. I suffered some of those decisions in the past. For example, when I fought Shambe Mitchell, that's a fight that everyone will tell you that I won. But, in the judge's eyes, I didn't win it. And in the promoter's eyes, I didn't win it. But that's boxing for you. So if there's one disadvantage about fighting in a foreign country is, you don't just fight your opponent, but you fight, the officials as well.
Yeah, that was certainly a fight, that Sean Bay Mitchell fight. That was back in 2004. A lot of people felt you won. I certainly thought you were worthy of a decision that took place in Atlantic City. And that got your name out there to a lot of American boxing fans, people who might not have heard of you before. I mean, the first time I remember seeing you was on Fox Sports, Fox when you beat Steve. Well, actually, you lost to Steve Quinones. You had a head, if I remember correctly, there was a butt, and they went to the scorecards early. Or did that fight go to distance? Am I thinking of a different fight? I know you had knocked Quinones down in that
Yeah,
fight.
well, look, yeah, that's Steve Quinones. I remember that fight pretty well because, in fact, I even knocked him down, and they didn't really knock down, and they gave him, they gave him the decision, and. But look, I just believe everything, happens for a reason. The thing is, they might have taken those fights away from me, but I never gave up. Like the great Nelson Mandela says, it always seems impossible until it's done. And I knew I was going to become a world champion one day, and eventually I won the IBF title, and I went on to win the IBO title. So, but I really look, If you really want to be known or be seen as a great fighter, or if you want to make a name, you really got to get out to the States, to America to fight. I mean, I just believe you're not a fighter until you get an opportunity to fight, in Las Vegas. It's always been my dream when I was growing up, that one day I want to see myself, fighting in Las Vegas. And eventually it happened when I fought Miguel Cotto. And, that fight, that was another fight I took in a week's notice. But I just I had to take it. When they gave me the opportunity, I didn't care how long I've been preparing for the fight. I just took it, and I believe that's another fight that could have gone either way. I was probably the first guy to go the distance with Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, that was certainly a memorable fight as well. I remember when you were named as a replacement, a lot of people were down on it. They were like, who is this guy? This is going to be a joke. And you gave Cotto probably his toughest fight. You extended him the distance. You won a lot of rounds. You probably could have easily. If it wasn't a big name that you were fighting, you might have even taken that fight. It was one of those things where the politics of boxing probably took over, and a real key sign to that for me was two of the scorecards were close, two of the judges' cards were close, and one, Glenn Trowbridge, a guy who's had a reputation for handing in wacky scorecards, had Cotto winning by a wide margin. Now, when you see something like that, you're saying all these things here about that's how it goes when you're fighting in America and all that stuff. But is there anything that you could that you ever tried to do about it when you feel like you've worked so hard and then get handed a lousy decision?
Look, a lot of people will give up. It gets to a point where you just say, look, why am I wasting my time? I'm never going to get a decision, But when I look at it, that's what I said, I'm so grateful that I never gave up. I knew, eventually I would, I will win the title. I will get an opportunity to win that world title. And that's exactly what I did. That's boxing for you. But like I said, look, I've had a very long career, I've had a good career, and it's time for me to move to my next, career. I mean, I'm probably one of the most, probably the most educated fighter out there. People speak of, those big heavyweights what are they? The Klitschko brothers as the, educated fighters. I believe I'm more educated than them. I mean, I've got a degree in law. I've got a degree in communications. I've got a degree in psychology. I'm a qualified solicitor, and I'm pursuing my master's degree in law. So I've got something, I've got something to fall back on. It's not like I have to stay in the sport forever, to make a living. So that's what I was saying before, any smart guy would walk away before you get hurt, and that's exactly what I'm planning to do now. I'm pursuing my next career now.
Now, you fought Mitchell up until this point, and then you get the Cotto fight, both fights that you could have been called a winner in, and it would not have been a disgrace. It would have been justified. Does either one of those guys talk to you after the fight, or do you ever get close to getting a rematch with either one of those guys after those close fights?
It's funny. neither one of them would want to give me a rematch. And I know I tried so many times to get a rematch with Miguel Cotto, and they wouldn't even look at me. But that's boxing for you. It's funny when a few years later after I fought Shambe, because at the time when I fought him, he was being promoted by what's his name? Just trying to remember his name. But anyway, the promoter contacted me a few years later. He wanted to sign me up, and I kind of brought it up. I said, look, what do you make of that decision with Shambe? And his words were, Lovemore, if you were my fighter at the time, believe me, you would have walked away world champion that evening. So it's funny that these people know what they're doing, but that's boxing for you.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting.
Gary Shaw. That was Gary Shaw.
Interesting. He has a kind of his reputation speaks for itself too. Now, after the Cotto fight, once again you're in a fight where a lot of people thought you won, and you were handed another close loss against Junior Witter, and that fight took place in the Staples Center in Los Angeles, and that was another fight that was close on the scorecards, but did not go your way. Did you feel you won that fight?
Again, there was another fight I took on short notice. Guira was supposed to be fighting somebody, and somebody pulled out. And at the time, I think Golden Boys, were talking about signing him up. He had an English promoter who was, co-promoting with Golden Boys, and but that's boxing for you. Again, things didn't go my way. That's boxing.
And again, no rematch, and then you go on a nice little winning streak after that tough decision loss. And then you face somebody who actually did at least have the courtesy of you get a rematch. You fought Paulie Malignaggi twice. I thought you definitely won the second fight.
Well, Paulie Malignaggi didn't have the courage to give me a rematch. He just. I had to threaten them with a lawsuit. That's the only way I enforced the rematch.
He was trying to avoid you.
He did everything he possible could, and
wow.
Being a solicitor, I had to, I had to use law to enforce him to give me that rematch. And eventually it happened. Anyone would tell you that fighting, in England, in Manchester, I beat Malignaggi. Everyone that saw the fight knows I beat Malignaggi.
I definitely think you won that fight, that rematch.
But the problem was, when I fought Malignaggi, they've already had him signed to fight Ricky Hatton next. There was no way they were gonna let me jeopardize it. There was millions of dollars, to be made. So why let Lovemore, why let a foreign guy just come in and jeopardize that? But you know what? Boxing works in a funny way, and I believe it's true what they say about karma. You look at what happened to Malignaggi not long ago when he fought Bronner. To me, when I look at that, I just see it as karma, because Malignaggi should have won that fight, but they took it away from him. The same way they took the fight away from me when I fought him. The only exception is, Bronner took his girlfriend as well.
Yeah, that was kind of strange. That whole post-fight debacle, and Bronner is certainly a guy who is not short on words, and neither is Malignaggi. And those two fights, when you fought Paulie, was the trash talking at a high level from him? Because he seems like a guy who doesn't keep his mouth shut too often.
Look, I love Paulie when it comes to that. He knows how to sell a fight. He can talk, and it doesn't really bother me how people talk before a fight. As long as they don't, as long as you don't cross the line. You could say what you want, as long as at the end of the day you respect a man as a man. And I believe that's what Malinaji did. He showed, as a person, he did respect me, but as far as promoting the fight, he was talking the way he always does. That's Malinaji.
Right. Now, you got a little older. You still obviously a guy who would prove tough for anybody. And then you fought a young stud in Mexico named Saul Canelo Alvarez, a guy who was billed as having thunder in both his left and his right hand. And you were able to take him the distance. Now, obviously, Canelo has this big super fight coming up with Floyd Mayweather. First, I want to hear what you think about Canelo. What was your experience fighting him, and what kind of a chance do you think he has against Mayweather?
Look, I think Canelo is he's a good fighter, but I think at the same time he's overrated. He's improving with every fight. Look, I had an opportunity to work with Mayweather, when he was preparing for Ricky Hatton. I spent up to about 3 months at his gym training with him and sparring with him. Personally, I just believe there's no way Canelo will beat Mayweather. I believe styles make fights, and in Mayweather just got that style where at the moment there's just no one out there who can beat him. Not to say he won't be beat one day. If he stays in the sport, eventually somebody will work him out and beat him. But Canelo is just not the right guy to beat him.
Now, do you think that Mayweather has a chance of stopping Canelo Alvarez, or do you think it's going to be another decision victory for him?
Look, Mayweather is not a big, he's not a big puncher, but again, it doesn't take one punch to knock someone out. Sometimes it takes combinations. But I can see the fight going the distance. I can see the fight going the distance, but Mayweather winning it.
Now, Lovemore, getting back to your career, and you've had an amazingly long career. We've talked about most of the top guys that you've fought. Certainly got a lot of bad decisions go against you. You've fought so many times. You have a record of 49-13, and a lot of those 13 losses should have went your way. 2 draws. You've boxed over 440 rounds, and you would never stop. Every fight that you lost went the distance, went to the scorecards, and that is just amazing to me, considering all the top guys you fought. You fought bangers like Hermit Cintrone, obviously the other names we've mentioned already. Did you ever come close to getting, really hurt and stopped? Did anybody really put a hurting on you in any of those fights? Was there ever a danger? Like, I don't know if I could take this much more. Or was it always pretty easy for you to go to distance?
Look, I think it all comes down, to fitness. I've always been a very fit guy. I train really hard in the gym, and I think the fitter you are, the better you can take a punch, and I think that's what it comes down to. No, I don't think there's, I've been knocked down and I always got up and fought. I've never been stopped. Not even as an amateur, I've never been stopped. And, that's one thing I can be proud of. I could walk away and say, wow, look, I had a long career and never been knocked out.
Certainly amazing.
And I don't think it's a great thing, when you get knocked out. And, I believe once a fighter starts getting knocked out, they should also consider, retiring.
And it's certainly amazing considering the type of fighters you fought. Out of everybody you fought, who would you say was the best puncher?
It's fun. I always tell people the best puncher I've ever been in the ring with was probably my brother, because he was the only guy that ever really had me in sparring. And I used to train with my brother. We used to spar. And, I remember one day, we were sparring. He hit me with the right hand. And I had a headache for about 2 weeks. So,
wow.
That's, for me, he was the hardest puncher ever.
Man, you're talking about, obviously, you fought Philip in 2009. You won that fight.
No. Listen, Philip is not my brother. It wasn't Philip. I'm talking about my real blood brother. Lovemore Ndou. Radok was his name. He had a very short career. He decided at the end to become a pastor. But he had about 11 fights. But it wasn't a fight. I mean, it was in the gym. We were training, in sparring. He had me, to a point where I spent like 2 weeks with a terrible headache. I rate him as probably the hardest punch I've ever been in the ring.
So you don't have any relation to Philip? I always thought you guys were related.
No, we're not related at all. I don't know where,
okay.
Where that rumor comes from.
Yeah, you see that?
Philip, I know Philip from, when we were coming up as amateurs. I was actually his team leader.
Right.
His captain, and Ndou is probably the Chavez of the Chavez of South Africa. There's so many Ndous over there.
Right. Well, Philip had a reputation as a big puncher as well, and obviously got beaten up badly by Floyd Mayweather, and obviously you beat him as well. So that's who I thought you were talking about. But thanks for clearing that up. But and who would you say that was the best overall fighter that you fought? Had the best skills in the ring that you thought, wow, that guy is really on a level there?
Look, it's really, really hard to pick one.
And I think we dropped. We lost Mr. Ndou. I'm going to try and get him back on the air because he was in the middle of giving us a really good answer. And I'm going to try and give him a call back. I think now I figured out the problem with the number. And if he doesn't call back in a few minutes, we'll definitely get him back on. And I'll take a quick break and see if I can get to the bottom of it. All right, we are back. I think Lovemore is back on the line. I think your call dropped. Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, the call dropped. You were in the middle of answering who you felt who you felt the best fighter was, the best skilled fighter that you faced, and you said it was hard to pick one, and then we lost you right after that.
Yeah, look, it's really difficult for me to pick one fighter and say, look, this was the most skilled fighter I've ever been in the ring with. I mean, I think I've been in the ring with too many fighters, and every guy is different, and every guy, we all good at somebody is good at some fighters are good at some fighters got good hand speed, some fighters got good ring movement, some fighters they're just sharp. It's really hard to pick one. Well, and you know what? I think that's what really makes Mayweather a great fighter, because I think he's got a combination of all.
Right.
He's got speed, he's got he's got really good accuracy, and apart from that, the guy trains really hard. He's one of the hard-working fighters I've ever seen.
Yeah, here's a tough question. I don't know if you could answer this one, but who would you say was the most overrated guy you've ever fought?
The most overrated guy? I think I've already answered the question. To me, I think it's Canelo.
Okay, yeah.
I think he's overrated.
I wanted to clear that up.
I think he's overrated.
All right. Well, we'll definitely find out how good he is come September, and that's going to be a super mega.
When Canelo, when you look at Canelo, when he started his career, when he built up his name, he was fighting. He fought a lot of small guys. When I fought Canelo, I was actually a junior welterweight, and I fought him at middleweight, and that's how he built up his career, fighting small guys. He would sign you up to fight him at 150 pounds, and he would come up at about 160 something pounds by the time he steps into the ring. So he was fighting a lot of small guys, but that's just how I see it, and I just believe the guy is overrated.
Right. No, I appreciate your honesty. A lot of people would not answer that question, so I'm glad you're straightforward with us. That's what we like here. But as far as your career goes, you already hinted towards retirement. You fought last August of 2012. You were successful. You fought in Australia. You won a decision over Gary St. Clair. And can you say for sure that's the last time Lovemore Ndou is going to lace up the boxing gloves? And if not, what would it take for you to fight again?
Look, there's one fight I would love to have in Australia, and that's against Anthony Mandin. You know, and this is personal. This is because personally I don't like the guy. You know, I think he's an embarrassment to boxing. You know, the guy came from football. You know, I think the guy is full of talent, but the guy is just got he talks too much crap. You know, and I just don't have respect for anybody that doesn't have respect for the sport. You know, apart from that, he's got no respect for the public in general. You know, he just, for that reason, I would love to fight him. And, that's one fight I would love to have in Australia. But, apart from that, I think I'm just pretty much as done with boxing. You know, I love what I'm doing now, I fight different fights now. I fight in courtrooms every day. You know, I feel great, knowing that I'm fighting for other people's justice out there every day. You know, that's the fight I'm enjoying today. But again, you never say it's over in boxing. They could just, you never know. I could be offered a big money fight, and if I think it's a good fight, I'll probably consider it. But the only fight I really, really need at the moment is, a fight with Anthony Mandin in Australia, and I think I'm done. I think I've had a great career,
Now, has there been any negotiations getting that fight done?
Look, the guy is doing everything to avoid me. I've been challenging the guy since 2007, but I know why he's avoiding me, because I beat him up in sparring, once a few years back. And at the time, he was fighting as a super middleweight, and I was competing as a lightweight, and he just couldn't touch me, in the gym. So he knows, what he'll be coming up against. I mean, he's another guy that really, picks his opponents, and so I believe that's one of the reasons. Look, I've had some talks with his manager, and they were supposed to come back to me, and then next thing they were talking about fighting Shane Mosley, and but I don't think that's going to happen, So at this stage, I mean, it's up to them. They've got my number. If they need the fight, I'm here. And I mean, a lot of people in Australia are talking about the fight. That's the fight they want to see, But again, it all comes down to Mandin.
Well, hopefully we get to see it. Now, is there any kind of a timetable, Lovemore, where you'll say, all right, I'm going to officially announce my retirement, or are you just going to stay as you are now and never make it official?
I will eventually make make a decision, I don't know, maybe towards the end of the year, I'll make an announcement. But like I said, I've got so many things happening. I mean, I even did, I don't know if you're aware, I even had an MMA fight last year. I just had one MMA fight and won in the first round.
No, I did not know that. I would ask you about that had I known. What made you get into the MMA?
I think I was starting to get bored with boxing, to be quite honest. Look, like I said, I've had a very long career, both as a professional and both as an amateur. It gets to a point where you just find things are not challenging anymore, and then, when it's not challenging, that's when, you look at something else. And for me, I just felt I wanted to try it, and I'm glad I did, and things went well. I mean, and I went and won in the first round.
Oh, very good.
But, that's not something I will do again. I mean, my kids are totally against it. They don't like MMA at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those guys who likes both boxing and MMA, but a lot of guys hate it. Is it harder to train for an MMA fight? I mean, you were in boxing so long, but is there any different physical approach that you have to take, considering it's a lot less rounds, but a lot more minutes per round to fight?
Look, I love MMA. I think people should actually, respect MMA. You look at it,
I agree.
boxing only forms a little part of MMA. MMA is a combination of, uh, a lot of combat sports. So when you prepare for MMA, there's gotta be your jiu-jitsu training, there's gotta be your wrestling training, there's gotta be your boxing training. For that, I mean, it's different kind of training, but I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed my training. I still continue training. I mean, I I still keep in shape. When I get a chance, I'll go to an MMA gym and have a good training session. I've got a good trainer, and I just love it. But it's quite different training as compared to boxing, and it's hectic.
Right.
I love it though.
Oh, interesting. Thanks for that. I did not know. I would have certainly brought it up had I known that. And now, before I let you go, Lovemore, and I know it's way early in the morning where you are in Australia, I just want to ask you one last question. If you could go back in time and fight one of those old-time fighters that you would want to test your skills against, who would it be against?
Yeah, that's a really hard one.
It's a question I ask everybody. Go ahead.
It's funny because I think the best fighters were all fighters. I think the best fighters were better than today's fighters. I just got so much respect for all fighters, and to even want to pick a fight with one of them, I think would be an insult to boxing. So I pass.
Pass. Okay. Well, there's probably a whole bunch of guys that you would like to match up against, testing your skills against the Sugar Ray Robinsons of the world. Maybe that would be something, wouldn't it? Maybe we could go back in time and get that made. Well, if only we had a time machine, though, Lovemore.
If we only had a time machine, look. Like I said, I really, really wouldn't want to insult, my old heroes. These people, I just think great.
Who were some of the guys that you looked up to of the past? Who were some of your favorite fighters of not only yesterday but of today?
Well, the guys like Sugar Ray Robinson. When you look at heavyweights like Sonny Liston, I think they were great fighters. As compared to today's, today's heavyweight, or if as compared to today's, middleweight, I just think, Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest. I mean,
right.
There's never gonna be a Sugar Ray like him.
Other than Floyd Mayweather, the fighters today, is there anybody else out there who really impresses you? Like, oh wow, this guy could have fought in any era. He's really good.
Look, there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of up-and-coming fighters, but, fighters like Broner, I think he's got talent, but I don't rate him, I think he needs to create his own style. He thinks he's a Mayweather. There can only be one Mayweather, but, there's always new up-and-coming fighters. There's always going to be a new talent, I just think at the moment, I just think Mayweather is the man.
Gotcha.
I would have really loved to see him fight Manny Pacquiao when Pacquiao was at his best. But unfortunately, that fight happened. I think that would have been one of the greatest fights ever.
Yeah, the fight that we suffered through being teased about. Before I let you go, Lovemore, we have a caller on the line. Do you mind if I take this call? Do I have a question for you?
Sure.
All right, caller, you're on the line. You have a question for Lovemore Ndou?
Yeah, hey, I got a question for him.
Go ahead.
How thick what is the girth of the average shit that you take? And are your poops green or brown?
I apologize for that. That was a certain a clown.
Hey, yeah.
This is what you called up to talk about?
Shut up.
All right, sir. You want to give your name?
My name is your mother.
Oh, really? What do you think about this, Lovemore? This guy calls up, gets on hold, and this is what he discusses. And he doesn't even have the guts to give his number, so I can't call him back. But do you have any response to something like that?
Well, my response is the guy obviously has got some issues. Whatever it is, he needs to pay the nearest shrink he can get a visit, because
yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's uncalled for. You don't just get on a radio and talk crap like that. But look, that's his problem. He needs to deal with that. I don't know what caused him or made him talk the way he did, but that's his problem.
Well, it's interesting, Lovemore, because when I started doing this show a few years ago, I used to get calls like that all the time, and then they stopped. And you brought somebody out, though. You had the power to get one of those crank callers to come in and make a fool of himself.
Look, we live in a crazy world. We've got crazy people out there. As long as you don't take it personal at the end of the day, you just look at it and laugh about it. But that's something
Yeah,
he just gave me something. He just gave me something that I'm gonna look at in the future and just keep on laughing about, because I really can't understand what made him say what he said.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's good you had a sense of humor about it. And again, if you're going to call in and present yourself like that, at least have the guts to give us your number so I could call you back. But anyway, Lovemore, I thank you for your time. It's been great. I'll give you some final words. Is there anything you want to get out there? Tell us what you're doing now other than what you've already have told us. Give us some final words.
Look, I just want to say thanks for having me on your show. It's been an honor. I want to thank Anne Whitlock from the UK. I believe she's the one who arranged for this interview.
Yes.
She does a great she does a great job with boxing. She's probably one of the biggest boxing historians I've ever known. You just have to follow her on Facebook. You will know that she knows what she's talking about. Lots of love to her. And I want to thank all the listeners. And hopefully I'll get an opportunity to be back on the show in the future. And then I'll let you guys know exactly what I'm doing, whether I'm going to continue with boxing or whether it's it's over and done with me.
All right, I hope you get that fight with Modine that you've been seeking. It'll be fun to watch, and if not, we'll certainly talk to you in the near future. And you're right, Ann Whitlock. You go on her page on Facebook, and you'll learn a lot. I certainly learned a lot of stuff. Great history of boxing there, and thank her for setting up this interview. And I thank you, Lovemore, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. It's Monday where you're at. That's hard for me to put my head around.
Monday. Yeah, it is Monday. It's time to get ready, to run into a courtroom. And it's funny, I was, I just told people last week, and I did an interview, and I was telling people, I used to get up in the morning and put on a tracksuit and go for a run in the park. Now I get up and put a suit and run into the courtroom.
Yeah.
It's amazing how life changes.
A major contrast there, but thank you for giving us some of your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
God bless you.